extravaganza. So we've got a little experiment running today because in the future, Neight Mindham has a lot of travel. He's following around, different
We're
things.
giving
So
them the boot.
yeah, so next week, Nate's not going to be available, and so he's asking me to kind of try to keep the thing going. So this
By
week,
vote.
yeah,
By
this
vote,
week is
he's not
my
going to be available.
this week is going to be my test run to see if I have what it takes to keep this thing from imploding. So with that, I will welcome our former host, Neight Mindham. Nate, good to have you. Thanks for joining our podcast.
Next week, I'm going to be sitting on a beach in Mexico, doing the show from a beach in Mexico. So, Demetrius, you get to do all this so I can enjoy myself.
That's
Thanks,
right.
buddy.
That's right. Leading from
Where in Mexico are you
the
going, buddy?
A little bit south of Cancun. It's like a basically it's Cancun, but it's a little south
Nice.
of there. I don't remember what the actual city is. All
well, you know,
inclusive. I'll be drunk for most of it. I might remember some of it. I'm gonna go swimming with the turtles. And does anybody, Mike? Do you ever watch any of The Office? I would assume not.
No, I don't. I wish I had time to watch TV, man. Must be nice.
Yeah, well, my wife has dragged me into being a TV watcher when I go to sleep. I never used to watch TV before bed, but apparently she can't go to sleep without it, or struggles to. So the TV's always got to be on, and that's like the one thing that we can decide that like that's where we negotiated was what are we going to watch when we go to sleep. And The Office is the only TV show that I've ever watched that I don't hate immediately. So we watch a lot of The Office, and there's a scene in The Office where basically Michael, the guy who's in charge, gives a gift basket to a former client, and it has some turtles in it, some chocolate turtles. And my wife sends me the GIF of Michael screaming, "Where are the turtles?" And she's like, "Nate," immediately once he gets into scuba diving with the turtles. So I think it's really funny.
well, I just want to point one thing out is that I've been jumping in on this podcast for coming up on 2 years, and we have yet to take a podcast trip to Cancun. So I'm just planting seeds, a little morale stuff. So anyway, okay,
Thanks for the
Mike.
invite. Right?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
with you,
Mike.
Demetrius. Yeah,
Welcome, Molina Mike. How's it going this week? How you doing?
it's going good. I missed you guys last week, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Lots to talk
Ohio
about.
Open. Yeah. So where are you at right now? Where are you reporting from? Are you on the
I'm
road or are
back
you
at
at home?
home. No, no, I'm back at home. I was debating whether or not to go to the international uh,
Hmm.
or go to Chip and Scott, but I don't know, man. I spent so much time on the road the last few months, so I'm enjoying being home. I tell you, just
Yeah.
waking up in my own bed, there's nothing like it. So, but there's a lot of stuff to talk about, man. A lot of stuff going on. Pool 14.1 starts today.
Yeah.
Um, Chip and Scott start today. A lot of big events just finished up, so I'm ready, man. Let's jump into it.
Sounds good. So here's what we've got on the docket today is we've got here I got to get the chat overlay going. Did that work? Okay. So we've got Pia Filler versus April Larson. We've got recap. That's a recap. That's already happened. We've got a recap. Talk a little bit about the Ohio Open, and then we've got coming up Scott Frost versus Chip Compton, and then another match that Mike wanted to talk a little bit about that I'm not too familiar with. So I think we're going to kick off with some of the matches, that we're going to recap or talk about. Is one of them was this race to 50 with Pia Filler versus April Larson. And so, it was cool. Now these two had played a Ghost Challenge match last year, right? Where they played against the Ghost, and it was race to 50 racks, and Pia had won that. But it wasn't a heads up format face to face. So this time, we've got
Was
vaccines, we've got whatever. What's that?
was that a race to 50, or was it the first person
Oh
who
yeah,
made it to
yeah.
50?
It probably was just 50 racks, and then no, no, no. I don't. You know what? I don't remember. I just
I don't
remember the
remember
number
either.
50. Yeah,
Maybe it
so
was
it has
yeah,
something to do
maybe it
with
was
50.
yeah, yeah. I think it was the shortest amount of time it took to get to 50, but I might be wrong on that too.
So in any
Forget, not
case,
important.
they just played a race to 50, and Pia Filler ended up winning that one. Let's see here, and I don't. I'll tell you what. I have a vague. I didn't watch it. I just went back and kind of like looked at this. Looked at some of the racks afterwards because it was on Facebook. What was the final score? It was 50. Who knows the final score? I should have
34.
34. So that sounds pretty lopsided. But if I remember right, like Pia got a pretty good lead, like a 9 game lead on day one, 25-16, I think. And then at one point, April came back and it was only like a 4 game difference. And then Pia kind of ran away with it a little bit. Is that
So
is that
yeah, at one point in time, Pia was up 3-2, and the next time that, or no, 4-3, I think 4-3, and the next time that April basically got a look at the table, it was 17-3. So it was basically in there. She ran so many racks. I mean, she was doing that soft break, and the balls were just kind of like the one ball barely got up table. She was trying to float it over the top right pocket. So she was hitting the rack just hard enough to get basically the one ball up table, and she was running out from everywhere for a stretch of time where she had a breakdown, and it was incredible. And then and on the last day, I believe that the score was right around 33 to 27 to 29, somewhere in there, where April got it back to really close. And then we all know what the final score was because we just said it. So basically, Pia went on like a 15-3 or 4 run to close out the tournament.
yeah? So we're when we start with something like this, I don't know where else to start except for the break shot because I think that had a tremendous it was a tremendous factor. It seems like anytime we talk about a rotation game matchup, we got to talk about the break. So the rules, this was it was similar to the U.S. Open rules in the sense that it was one on the spot, break from anywhere, no 3-point rule, and this time template rack, and then there was two things that made it even easier. There was no requirement for a firm break, and they allowed pattern racking. So what Pia was doing then, it's like, would you guys agree that you can't possibly make a softer break rules than the ones that they were using? Would you guys agree with that?
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe like 6-inch pockets.
Okay, maybe.
Maybe.
So I don't even know if it would change anything because what happened. So here's the break. For those who haven't done this, I have played with these break rules before. At the U.S. Open Bar Table Championship, they used these rules and they did not enforce any kind of no pattern rack or no hard breaks. So what happens is we were breaking just like Pia. You would roll onto the head ball with just like a medium, like maybe hard enough to shoot like a really soft stop shot if you had a really low tip. Anyway, like a very soft to medium roll, and the wing ball would go in, it's dead, and then everything kind of floats apart. You play the one ball on the breaker's side of the side pocket, and you hit it easy enough that there's no way to get hooked because nothing else can even bounce around the table and get in the way. You just float the rack open, make the wing ball, put the one in front of the corner, and the cue ball just hits and kind of like rolls into the rack and stops. So you've always got a shot at the one in the top left corner, and then everything's kind of floated open. Once in a while, because of the soft break, sometimes there's a little bit of a pocket blocked here or something with one of the balls, might only have one pocket to go in. But because of the magic rack and the polished balls and the fast cloth and rails, there's no clusters. There's usually like 7 or 8 balls on the table that are floated apart. And because she's pattern racking, she sets them up to where each one kind of leads to the next. And so in that format, what does that do to the game? Nate, Mike, why don't you jump in? What are your thoughts on that type of a rack? Like, what does that do to
It's
an eyeball?
brutal. It's brutal to watch. I can't fade it. I can't. Now, listen, there's some talent there. Don't get me wrong, and a lot of it because you got to be able to execute. And Pia's a professional, and not just that, but she's kind of got an ace up her sleeve, doesn't she, boys? And having one of the best pull minds on planet Earth right now in her back pocket in Josh Filler.
Yep.
As tough as it is to watch, I've always said this, man. It's the break in the rack is a skill like any other, and if you don't know it, then you're just being lazy. What she did was pretty remarkable. I don't know exactly what the highest run was, but Nate's right. It was something like I think April was up something like 2-0, and then before you knew it, like I went to go to the pool room, and I checked on my phone. I brought it up, and it was like 17-3. What is going on? I mean, it was over before it started, but hats off to April because she did show a lot of heart in that match in coming back. But boy, was she up against it with that break, man. I mean, Pia, you can tell she put in the work and just had it down, man. With a template's pretty gaffy, when you talk about that kind of format and not being able to have any kind of hard break. But at the end of the day, man, listen, 2 women getting in the box, gambling for real money because I know people who lost real money backing it. It's great to have these women showcased, on a stage like all by themselves, where usually it's most of the boys involved. So,
What are your thoughts, Nate?
Well, I mean, I can't really expand upon what he said as far as, I mean, that's basically the exact way I feel about it. It seemed to be a little bit gaffy. I guess I want to pose the question maybe to both of you. If those breaking rules aren't put in place, and let's say they're playing by a 3-point rule or a 4-point rule or something, they basically have to break above 15 or 17 miles an hour, something like that. Do you think that April would still lose this, or do you think that she would win this? Because I thought that she shot the ball super straight. I thought she played well.
It's that debate gets brought up like in every tournament, right? Like because the definition of a hard break is very arbitrary. What you may go and think as a hard break isn't what I may go and see as a hard break, and it won't be the same definition that Demetrius does. So it's very very difficult. Like as much as I hate changing a rack in the middle of a tournament, like I kind of like an old school triangle rack where you're gonna just you're gonna get what you get, and that's it. And you're not going to have any consistency, and you're going to have to play pool, right? I mean, that's an idea, right? To actually play pool, not just go and have these cupcake outs. And with people at their level, men or women at their level, they're going to go and get there when you have that kind of a layout because they have that kind of ability. I know back in Aiken they had played a little bit. I don't think it was April and Pia, but April and Christina played a little set. I think it was to 11. Christina and Pia played, and I think this is where all this kind of planted the seed to go and get this happen. And not only that, but they pulled it off like with no time at all because this was literally just maybe like 4 or 5 days to go and string all this together. That they were able to do it for the fans and for free and from Roy's basement, from Roy's stream, which is fantastic. But man, I don't know. It's just it's so tough. Like I would have never agreed to that, knowing that she's got Josh, like to go and help her out with every single aspect of that rack and break. Like that is such a huge advantage. How do you not know that going in?
Yeah, so my thoughts on this is I don't know if April would have won, but I think it would have been a heck of a fight, and I definitely think April, could have won. If you take away that solved break, Pia doesn't have the same momentum. She doesn't have the same lead. April's much more in it. She's getting more chances. She's not iced. Pia doesn't have all the momentum on her side or the big lead. I think it plays out. There's more pressure on Pia. April has more. She's not fighting as much of a. I think it changes the whole match. Now,
For sure.
I don't want to come across as dismissive because I'm going to get to where I was really impressed. So I don't want to make it sound like, oh, please, this stupid rack. Nothing they did matters now because I didn't like the rack. But that's not what I'm saying. But I do think it has to be addressed because, in my opinion, it's if you pattern rack with a soft break and 9-ball, float the balls open, make one ball in the corner, have the same shot with the same layout and everything's open. If I had to Fargo rate what it would be like to play the 9-ball ghost with those conditions, I would say it would be like right around 600 to 620 Fargo to beat the 9-ball ghost. Now, if you play on worn cloth with a triangle rack and try to play the 9-ball ghost might play like a 700. So it's like it's 100-point difference. And and here's where it kind of pains me is because I feel that these ladies are playing too strong to do this type of thing. I almost feel like I've never, ever, 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 ever seen two professional men gambling with those break rules. Am I wrong?
Jason's into the Mosconica.
Oh, okay.
Breaking news.
Never would have seen that coming. But no, so here's the thing: is I almost feel like those break rules. I feel like it's kind of diminishing to their ability. It's almost like they're starting at like a golf where they're starting at a ladies' tee instead of. It's like why they're too good to start from there. Pia proved it. Pia proved, in my opinion, that she knows how to break open that rack and run that pattern of balls out. So why would we do that? Why? I mean, now I don't blame her. If somebody let me get away with that, I would do it too. But in a gambling match, you take your edge, I guess. But so to Mike's point, I don't know why that was allowed. But I just feel that they play. April and Pia are playing great. So this is the part where we can talk about how great they play. I just think they're too great to play by those break rules. I think it diminished what their skills could have been in a contest that was on different footing. So what do you think of their? Any comments to add, or what do you think of their level of play?
I mean, they were both fantastic. Like, for April to go, listen, you're down 17 to what was it, 17-3 going to 25 on day one, and to show the kind of heart that she did just shows what April's made of. So that's fantastic. Getting up 17-3 in that format, like, was pretty fantastic, in and of itself. For my money, it's just tough to go and watch professionals play that kind of format. Just like to be able to sit there and watch for that amount of time, because it does get kind of boring. I enjoy seeing these guys play pool or these gals play pool, and everything that comes with that. But no, I mean, the score doesn't for me go and reflect like what they did, because you can go and say, oh, April got buried, but man, I don't think so. I mean, she showed that she's got some courage, and like you said, Demetrius, it could have been a whole different match if Pia would have had some heat on her ass. Or better yet, if April would have gotten a lead, if it was a different format, and Pia had to go and play from behind. So I think they would go and play again. Obviously not that same format though, but I think they would go and play again.
What was your
I mean,
opinion about the level of play, Nate?
well, I mean, I guess expanding off his really quickly, it reminded me a lot of the Mika Immonen and Corey Deuel U.S. Open finals, right? I mean, Corey Deuel just comes out with this weird type of, I guess, fudge in the rules where he basically just took the game and made it an exhibition, and it is what it is. I mean, P is smart to do it. Why would you turn down an opportunity at winning the match by knowing that you could do that? But I guess April Larson, you want to talk about, like, her nickname's the Grinder, and she absolutely proved it. I mean,
She showed it, right?
to fade down, spotting someone 14 games in a race to 8, which is what it came down to be, and getting that within, making up 5 games out of that, and then coming out the very next day and winning 10 of the next 15 games to get it to within 3 or 4, whatever it was, before Pia went on another run. If this matches to 75 over 3 days, is does April have the heart to come back again? It's tough to know. I mean, I think P ended up winning maybe 13 of 15 games, but April already showed that she could do it once. Maybe she'll come back and get it again and put even more heat on the second time. And, it's easy to front run. Is it easy to do when you're, being chased down and it seems like you're losing 3 out of every 4 games, which, April did at some point in time in that match. If she does it again, is that enough pressure on Pia to kind of make her fold it up? Tough to say, but I would love
Christina
to see this.
in.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you my opinion is I was really impressed. I've been a big Pia fan. I've seen Pia play a bit over the last year, and I've been a big fan of hers. I've known April a long time. I mean, she lives in my home state, or she has. That's where she grew up. I've seen her play a lot over the years. I have never seen April play any better than I've seen her play the last couple months. She did pretty well at the U.S. Open, won a few matches, including one against, I forget who it was, some 750 Fargo player. Some pretty good player, and so to beat that player in a long set in that type of pressure shows game and heart and composure and experience and all that. What I watched her do, and I didn't watch the whole match, but I skimmed through a lot of the racks, and man, they're both shooting really straight. I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed with both their play. April, her stroke and eye are connected. Her fundamentals are solid. Her stroke and eye are connected. She's putting balls down really well, moving the cue ball around, effortlessly, solving problems, running through racks, and doing it up against a ton of adversity on a stream. I got to tell you, really, really impressed by April. And then what that means about Pia, of course, she has that break kind of solved, and so that was huge. But for her to be able to run out all those racks just shows that she just looks really, really crisp. I think that we're going to see a lot more of these two, and I think that I'm excited, man. I hope that they become 2 of the premier lady players here over the next few years. I'd like to see them both. I mean, they've both gotten a lot better, and I'd like to see how far they can take that.
So I have a question for you guys. Looking at the American men, remove Shane and, to a lesser degree, remove Sky. There's nobody on the world-class level. And if you look at the women right now, there's no one. I mean, Jennifer Brett is the closest thing we have, and even she's a pretty healthy notch below anybody else. April is 21 years old right now, I believe. does she have do you guys think that she has what it takes to get to that level where she's competing with, the top European women, Margaret, Kelly Fisher, Yasmin Ocean, and the Chinese ladies like, Siming Chen and the rest of the crew? Do you guys think that April ever has that kind of ability to get to that point, or is the U.S. women kind of just destined to be second or third tier as far as the top world talent?
You take that one, Mike. I'll go next.
I think it's very tough. Realistically, it's very tough. It, it it really just shows how incredible like the runs of like Han Yu was, for all those years and being as consistent as she's been on the world stage and going deep, if not winning. Kelly's dominance over the last 15 years and her level of consistency, because she can still snap it off. Rubelin. I mean, there's so many talented women players that have just when like pre-COVID, when pool was great for the women, and just how much they were able to go and execute on a consistent basis. It's tough to go and say right now, but she's got a long career ahead of her if she chooses to go and play pool full time, to go and possibly get there. But listen, they're putting in the work over there, right? And we see it all the time. We see it all the time with all those women. They're putting in the work day in, day out, perfecting their craft. They're treating it as being professional athletes. I don't see that from guys or girls on this side for the most part. I mean, obviously there's a bulk of people that do, right? But like outside of those, like maybe Tyler's of the world or whatever you want to go and say, it's tough, man. But I mean, hats off to April though. I think in a race to 7 or race to 9, I mean, anything can go and happen, but you got to play a lot of race to 7 and a lot of race to 9 to go and snap off a big event, right? So
yeah, so I think about it this way, and I really thought about this the last week. I was at the Ohio Open. I had some time to reflect, and my opinion is, a lot of times people, when I was an amateur, when I was, or I mean, whatever, when I was a kid, I should say, I thought that it was about who has the ability. Who has the ability? Do they have what it takes? Who has what it takes? Do they have what it takes? I've kind of gone away from that question. I don't think it's a question of some people have what it takes and some people don't. Now, there's a lot of pushback people give about talent and blah, blah, blah. But I really don't believe it's about who has talent or who has what it takes. I think it's about who will do what it takes and who will make the sacrifices and who has the resources to put in terms of time, energy, money to go to tournaments, and sacrifice. So you need time to play pool. You need you need to travel. You need money to travel. It's very expensive to travel, compete, especially when you talk internationally, but even at the national level. And then when you're going to put in that kind of time, energy, and money, that requires sacrifice, because that means there's other things you don't get to do, possibly like getting married, having a family, having a career, having a house, or retirement, or other passions or interests. So in pool, it's not so much to me about who can do it. It's about who's prepared to make the sacrifices and who's prepared to invest that much time, energy, and money. And what we've seen, and then if somebody doesn't make that sacrifice, you can't look at them and say, well, let's do it. It's like, obviously it makes sense for a lot of people not to make that. So like if April's going to school, it's hard to be like, well, she's not doing it right. It's like, no, she's absolutely trying to live a balanced life. And I applaud her for doing the best she can without sacrificing everything. I think that when you look at the world, I think that there's people in the world and there's certain cultures and certain groups of people that can kind of get together and decide we're going to sacrifice everything and we're going to put in as much time. We're going to push each other to put in all of our time and energy into pool. And when people are prepared to make that sacrifice, they will get to the highest level. So it's not to me a question of could April do it? It's a question is she going to choose to do that or not? I think one last comment is I think at some point as somebody ages, like for me, I think, I'm in my 40s now. If I were to go all in on pool, I don't see myself getting to the highest level now. So there is a window that closes at some point, but I don't think the window's closed for April or Pia. I think it just comes down to, do they go down that road?
Yeah.
And then
they're still very young, man. They're still real young. So, I mean, and I agree with you, Demetrius. It's like some people just aren't able to, even if they got all the passion in the world, right? Like there's so many factors that have to go into being an elite pool player. I mean, just talk to any one of these guys as far as the sacrifices they have to go and make for so many years of their lives to go and be at the level that they're at. It's all consuming. It's their life. You know, they eat it, they drink it, they sleep it, and when you go and look at different players from across the globe, they go and attack it differently. They go and prepare differently. Um, and it's very hard to go and be able to do that and still be a functioning member of society here in the U.S.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of it, right? So, um, but she's got all the upside in the world. You know, if she was able to, I think she could go and compete, and even now she can go and get there in a race to seven. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I just for me, I have kind of felt that way. Like we had that thing with the gymnastics a couple, a few months ago during the Olympics, where it's like, to me, I've seen it where it's not so much a contest of heart and ability at the highest level. It's a contest of sacrifice and resources. And at some point, it's almost like the Yankees. If they always win, it's like they have more money to build a better team. Like baseball, is it really about who's the best coach or who's the best players, or is it about which team has the most money to buy the best players? And that's why I think like having salary caps or having caps to how much you could play. So like for me, it would be really fun in like some weird thought experiment if everybody could have the same fixed number of money and time that they could spend on pool and then see who could do the most with it. Because right now at the highest level, there's people that have more backing and they're making bigger sacrifices, and there's nobody that's going to have any kind of a normal life. It almost looks like there's times when it puts me off a little bit because I want to applaud the great things that are accomplished by these extreme athletes, but at the same time, I know it's not really a contest of ability anymore. It's a contest of self destruction in terms of following this intense competitive desire to be at the top of some hierarchy that leads them down these kind of weird paths that lead to extreme performances. And at some point, I applaud their abilities, but it doesn't always speak to me. That's it. It's a weird conversation. So, okay, I want to go ahead, Nate. Did you have something you wanted to say there?
Well, I was just going to say, Greg Hogue is still, he's a little bit past at this point, but shout out to everybody that's tuning in and saying hi. First off, I guess. For sure. And Greg Hogue said that he's going to be playing Brady Berman, I think is his last name. A race to 50 on the bar table is coming up soon, and he's going to be playing Justin Bergman some one pocket, so that's pretty cool.
Good times. So I wanted to reply to a comment. There is very funny because there was two back-to-back comments, and this is the only one I wanted to touch on before we move on. So Dusty Geller says, play 10 ball. But then Raleigh Lee Dixon says, hey, gang, quick question. Why is the soft break in 9 ball with a pattern rack any different than Shane breaking 10 ball with its consistent speed? In 10 ball, the 1 is hit in the head, 2, 3 in the corners, which makes it a pattern. So he's basically saying that, with Shane, with the 1, 2, 3 on the corners, it's kind of a semi-pattern rack, and Shane's got the breaks off. So what's the difference between that and the soft break playing 9 ball? Go ahead, guys.
About 150,000 hours that Shane put into perfecting that.
Yeah.
That's about it. I'm guessing Pia put in about 17 minutes perfecting this 9 ball break because it's so easy, and Shane put in about 17 years putting into that break. That's other than that. There's no huge difference.
I don't
besides
know,
that.
I wouldn't say that. She don't go and dismiss her accomplishment. Going and perfecting that because that she did a good job there. But I agree with you. In
significantly
Shane,
easier.
sure.
How about we'll say that?
Yeah. Listen, just take it for what it is. Like for me, I don't like watching that anymore either, personally. Because I don't want to watch these guys have the same pattern. Not
on 4.5-inch pockets, anyways.
No. I can appreciate the greatness factor of it, right? I can appreciate Shane being the best in that. But then when I just look at it from a pool perspective, I'm like, man, that's tough to go and watch over and over and over and over again, right? But then I can go and watch the U.S. Open, and I'm not jumping on Matchroom's, back, by the way. I'm just saying I can go and watch U.S. Open when they're playing with the triangle rack, and I love it because then they're having to go and move. They're having to go and have safety battles. They're having to go and jump and bank and just be a lot more creative with it, even though it's still rotation, So it's tough for me with the template, for my money. But I can still appreciate like each of their greatness in that category. But listen, wait now. I don't want to say I think Pia is the best template female player on planet Earth. Like I'm not going out. I'm not saying that. Where I think Shane's probably top 3 in the world in 10 ball. So I just want to make sure I get that clear.
Yeah, so I'll tell you this. I more agree with Nate. Now, I obviously it didn't take Shane 17 years to perfect that break because he's been doing it for a long time. But to hit, okay, so let me talk about the 9 ball break. So when I went to the first time I ever tried that break, I was at a tournament with Jesse Engel, and he says, "Hey, let me show you how to break the balls." And so he gets up and he breaks them, and he's like, "You got to make sure the one bumps the rail, gets off for a shot at the corner. Cue ball's got to stop. Whatever." We talked about like what the requirements of like the perfect break are. Nate, how long did you say it would take? Like 7 minutes? It took less than that. It was like, I mean, it was you roll onto the 1 ball. Like I don't really understand. It's like it would be like the amount of time it takes to practice shooting in a hanging ball versus the amount of time it would take to practice like 2 rail banks in 1 pocket or something like that. It's just anyway. So whereas for me, so I learned that break in like 5 minutes, whereas the break in 10 ball, I still work on, and it's still a work in progress. Now, so that's the difference is that the amount of skill. Now, I do agree though that I do think that the template rack on a new cloth big table is, to me, it's boring watching the top players play 10 ball because they all have the 20-mile-an-hour pop rate perfected to where it's not interesting enough for me. So this is one reason why when we did the Ohio Open, they used triangle racks throughout the whole event, and I think that made the event the most interesting 10 ball event I've been a part. I mean, it was night and day a better game in my opinion. I think people break 10 ball too good now. The fact that we're using template racks, I really like the triangle rack. So I think it's a good time to shift over, and I think it might make sense to talk about the Ohio Open next. Is that cool, Nate? Is that okay?
Yeah.
So what do you, I'll start with the 10 ball rack. What did you guys think of the triangle rack? Would you agree? Did that make things exciting?
Go ahead, Mike.
No, I mean, for sure, it's not even close. But at the same time, like you're still having guys who are playing pretty consistent. Mario He, Roberto Gomez, a lot of guys.
Roberto Gomez is always there in the last 4 players. He's always in the last 4.
That's what I'm saying though. Like that's pretty incredible given how inconsistent that the rack and the break can go and be. There it shows that he's playing great pool, and he's been playing pool all year long. From the beginning of the year until now. But I'm 1,000% with you. I love seeing a triangle rack these days. I just do. If you're gonna get slugged, listen, the guy's got just as much of a percentage to get slugged as you do, and you're gonna have to go and earn it. You're gonna have to go and move. You're gonna have to go and play pool. You're gonna have to kick. You're gonna have to jump. You're gonna have to be tactical, like all the things that I love and want to see in pool because like Justin Hall would say, any monkey can run out of rack. So, except for Nate, but he's getting the boot.
When is that going to start?
Shots fired. Yeah. So, hey, I think everyone wants to hear about the Ohio Open, so I think I've got everyone committed. Should I run that quick commercial, Nate?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
All right, guys, we're gonna run.
You got to learn about the manscape.
So we're gonna dig into the Ohio Open. That was our teaser, but first, here's Manscaped. We'll be right back.
Well, guys, guess what? We get to do an awesome Manscaped ad.
I've been waiting for this.
You are excited. I'm telling you what, it's like a 3-year-old on Christmas morning, just waiting for Pinoza to be able to talk about the lawnmower 4.0. And Molina hasn't even smiled since he found out that we had to do this. So how are you feeling, Molina?
That's all I got.
Jim, how are you feeling?
I even prepared some before and after pictures that I'll post later on.
Yeah, we'll post those to the to the Give It Up page.
I just want to know what 3-year-old on Christmas is using this.
That's what I'm saying. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
well, I'm just talking the level of excitement.
I'm not sure sure the child reference is really appropriate.
Wow.
Yeah.
Instantly kicked off.
It's
exactly. You won't have to do this again, Nate, because you just lost your sponsorship.
Well, until we lose it, let's talk about it.
absolutely.
So, you, as the viewer, can show your support for the Cue It Up podcast by going to manscaped.com, where you have the opportunity to get 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code QItUpPod. You could get yourself an amazing lawnmower 4.0. And Jim says your balls will thank you. So how do we do this? What is the Manscaped 4.0? The Manscaped 4.0 is the best men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. There it is, Jim. Show it off. Check that
Damn.
out. Molina's like,
It's sweet.
Hmm.
I promise
The
you, you
fo-
could shave the hair off a balloon with this.
that's also true. We tested it. We have.
You
we have
can't
the
buy
videos.
these kind of testimonials. Let me tell you.
No,
No.
you can't.
These
The
things are
Lawnmower
awesome.
4.0. You heard that right. The 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trusted Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code QItUpPod at manscaped.com. And that is going to be right in the chat. So check it out there. And if we get a bunch of these, you are going to be able to support us with actual funding for the podcast from Manscaped. So please take the opportunity. Awesome. Turn it on, Jim. Fly it across the screen, loud and proud. You didn't turn it on. Oh, you did turn it on. There it goes. Look at that light. Look at that.
It's even got a
Oh,
light. It's
so
even
you
got a
can do-
light for
Yeah.
those
Wow,
dark and
it's even got
You
Yeah.
can
Wow.
you can
lights so you can
shave
reach those
in
dark
the
and
dark.
dirty
fully
places.
functional.
Yeah, you
Fully
can get to those dark and
functional.
dirty places with that light. It's very good.
You can get everywhere. You can get places you didn't even know you had with that flashlight.
It's, I don't even know.
And there you go. There's our ad. Go to manscaped.com and enter in code QItUpPod to get yourself 20% off and free worldwide shipping.
Do it.
Trim the hedges. Your ladies
Do
will
it.
thank you.
All right.
You can
And
share
we're
that.
Mm.
You can shave the hair off a balloon with it.
all right.
I love that line.
Tell
I
you
love
what.
that line.
Excellent. All right. Well, there's nowhere to go but up from there. So we will get right back to the Ohio Open. So in the Ohio Open, the winner was Mario He. Second place was it was Roberto Gomez, right? And then
Yep.
third and fourth was Ruslan Chinikov and Jeff DeLuna. Am I remembering this right? I'm not looking at it. I'm just trying to remember what I saw.
Yeah, I got it pulled up right here. Yep. And then fifth through it, if you want me to go through that, is Daniel Schneider, who's playing some really awesome pool right now. Mickey Krause, Jeremy Seaman, and Devin Poteet. And then rounding out the top 16 is Warren Kiamko, Mika Immonen, who gets 9th to 16th in every single one of these tournaments, unfortunately, for him. Alex Kazakis, Nayuki Oi, Sharik Sayed, Torsten Holman, John Mora, and Jeremy Sosi.
Yeah, it was a great tournament. So I think we talked about the break and the rack and how interesting that made it. You know, I think we've got to talk about, well, let's talk about the players first. So Mario He, you know,
Well, Demetrius, before we jump into this, you were there, right? So why don't you tell us what the actual room was like? Tell us about the atmosphere in it. Tell us how everything was there on site.
Yeah, I loved it. They had an amateur tournament going on bar tables on the other side of the room. As far as the players arena, they had 4 main tables and then they had the feature table. So we had a total of 5 tables. The table conditions were incredibly slick tables. So these were the Predator tables with the Arcadia cloth and balls. I've never played on them before, and a lot of times when I go to a new tournament, they're playing on new cloth, and that's not at all like your pool rooms. But like the Matchroom, U.S. Open tables were all brand new cloth. But these, it is way slicker than anything I've ever experienced. The only thing I can compare it to is a heated billiard table. What that means is the balls would go a little further than you think. The draw, I mean, you could draw a ball from 100 feet away if you have the landing space. And then I had a few times where I tried to just come back a little, and I like accidentally drew table length when I was trying to back up a foot the first few times I tried to draw the ball. And then the other thing was like side spin and throw. So when you use side spin, the cue ball deflects. here it would deflect more than you'd think. It would really just slide way out, and it would never
That
hook
kicked
back.
my ass in Michigan.
Yeah, it would never hook back, and the balls, the object balls, so it wouldn't swerve and it wouldn't twist the balls. And the last thing I'll say, I'm throwing a lot out here, just cutting the balls in. Everybody was overcutting everything because normally when you cut a ball in, you've got a little collision-induced throw that you have to kind of hit the thin side of the pocket and throw it in. Here, the balls would go right along the line of centers with almost no throw. And so when people were shooting shots, a lot of times when people were cutting balls, they were overcutting everything. And I saw this was not just a me thing, this was across the board. Everybody was struggling a little bit with this. So it was so weird that I'll tell you my personal experience. I won 2 matches, lost 2 matches, kind of had some chokes and meltdown, and I lost to Ruslan Cheetakov, and but it's really hard to feel confident playing Ruslan anyway. And when you have to start consciously thinking about how to adjust for the conditions on every shot, and then you're under pressure, that is not a good mix. So for me, that was my first time in that experience, and it made it insurmountable for me. I talked to Danny Olson out there. He says that he's been running his balls through the ball polisher every hour at home to try to duplicate the conditions. And even still, even with new cloth and running him through the ball polisher every hour, he said it takes him a while to get used to it out there. So those were so beautiful format, beautiful venue, really slippery conditions, which was, I think, gave an advantage to the people that were more experienced in those conditions. What do you guys think?
I mean, when I played in Michigan, I had that same problem. I honestly thought I was just dogging it for like the first 2 matches. Like I didn't realize that that was the case. So I'm sitting here missing shots, and I'm like, oh my god, how am I this bad? Like I just chalked it up. I wasn't feeling well. I was really I was kind of beat up and sick when I was in Michigan, and I was just kind of trying to battle through it. And I'm just like dogging all these balls, and I'm like, oh my god, what's going on? I was just chalking up to choking in a pro tournament or something like that. And I talked to Tyler Steyer after the match, and he's like, yeah, you gotta readjust the way you play in this game. You can't really use outside spin, and if you do, you got to aim about a half a pocket thicker to still pocket the same balls. And I'm like, wait, seriously? And it just happened to be the end of the day, so I went up and ran a couple balls down the rail with some high outside spin, just trying to test out his theory. And that's it. I mean, that the cloth it grips so much faster, and it doesn't it throws the balls more because it just seems the cloth is a little grittier, so the balls sit on top of it with a little bit more friction, and it throws the balls a little bit more. And when you do that deflection, it just doesn't come back very much. So once I got that, once I actually hit a couple balls, once I figured this out, I was already out of the tournament, of course, but maybe I could have made some micro adjustments in the moment, or maybe it would have messed with me even more in the fact that when I'm hitting balls down the rail, I got to actively start thinking about where I'm going to be aiming, and it's brutal to play this game on off of autopilot. At least for the way that I play the game, I can't play this game off of autopilot. It's brutal.
that is it. And I think Jeremy Jones was talking in the commentary about how Mario, he is very used to these conditions, and I think that there's a reason why the players that got deep in this event they've played on this type of condition a lot more, I think, and I think that was a huge factor. What do you think, Mike?
I'm just glad my boy Mario won it. He's playing some fantastic pool right now. I think he's often overlooked in a lot of the matchroom events, so it's great to see him kind of you get an opportunity and you make the best of it. I know the format the players don't necessarily love. We've beat that that thing to death over and over again. But it's a lot of fun to watch. Roberto's playing some top level pool right now and at a great time. So for me, it's more about the players. What Nate said is right. Daniel Snyder's playing some fantastic pool. I've been seeing it since the Texas Open. He's just been knocking off name after name after name and just getting more heads on his belt, so to speak. So shout out to Daniel. But it's
great U.S. Open. A really good U.S. Open. He was one out of the final 16.
Yeah, and that's pretty strong. You would have won a lot of money to go and get that bet.
His Fargo rate's only like 7. I think it's like 730. So I mean, he's really hitting
playing a lot of pool right now, man. Yeah, he's playing a lot of pool too. So, but all in all, I mean, yeah, Mario to finally go and get one. Him and that crew, man, have just been doing nothing but winning. Yeah, Kazakis as a world pool master. Yeah, Oliver snapping off an event in Aiken. Dennis, well, Dennis is always going deep, But Dennis has got all the talent in the world, man. I think that guy is like number 6 or 7 in my mind as far as Mosconi Cup year after year.
So,
It seems like.
but the thing with Dennis though, so the one thing it's weird. Of course, the players that ended up doing well, right? Mario, Gomez, and then DeLuna, Ruslan. They're some of
Ruslan's
the
another
best
guy.
players. They're the best players in the field, but at the same time, they also have huge breaks. And I think when you have that triangle rack, I think the value of a big break increases. There's no question Jeff DeLuna breaks the balls hard, and I've never really seen Mario Heat break the balls too much. Like I never paid attention to it until this tournament. It reminded me. I don't know if you guys maybe you know. Do you know Felix Berti? He's like a semi-pro from Canada. Anyway,
I know.
he looks a lot like Mario. He's a big guy, and I always called it like the bear claw break. He just kind of swats at the rack, and like it's one of these things where like playing 8-ball, like every ball just races around. It looks like he just takes all the balls and just sweeps them across the table. Mario Heat breaks like he doesn't move his cue that fast or like force it, but he really puts a lot of punch in his break. He gets explosive reaction. And when I was watching Ruslan versus Mario He, I remember thinking like if they were playing with template racks, I think Ruslan could do just fine. But playing with a triangle rack, I just had to feel like Mario had an edge because they were coming up dry sometimes. And sometimes you could see the players that would come up dry once or twice. And I think Roberto Gomez even joked he came up dry once and he said to Jeff, to Luna, he said, next time, or maybe he said it to the audience, he's like, next time I'm really gonna move the rack. Like they were really having to use their hard head. It wasn't this 18-mile-an-hour soft pop break. They were really having to gear up for it. And so I'm not surprised to see the players with the big power breaks make it further. If anything, I'm a little surprised. Tyler, unfortunately, got eliminated by Ruslan. Ruslan beat Tyler out right before he beat me out. And so, I mean, but that was only
He's
because
playing
two
good, too.
big guns competed.
Yeah.
What's that?
Ruslan's been playing good too. It's really his first or second event back in like
Yeah, he
2,
played
3
Michigan,
years.
too.
Yeah,
Michigan,
Yeah, I
too.
mean
I saw him
he really
play
hasn't.
5-10
hasn't
years
been
ago.
around.
He's always been a straight shooter, but 5-10 years ago, he played fast, loose, reckless. It looked a lot like he played a really fast and loose game, kind of like Josh Filler. Now I was watching him play, and he played much more methodical. And I've never seen a player change their gear so much as I've seen Ruslan in the last 5-10 years go from being fast, loose, a little rough on the patterns to just extremely aggressive and straight shooting to being like very methodical and solid. What do you guys think? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I saw Johnny Archer do that.
Johnny, I was just going to say, you
About
stole my thunder.
17 different, about 17 different times in his career, he went from being the slowest player in history to the fastest player in history, and then back and forth seemingly with the weather.
Yeah, no, that's the only other player I could think that's really changed their style that much. And I want to say hey to Greg Howg. I didn't get a chance to talk to you. I was watching your match when you played Danny Olson. It was a bummer. You were playing really good. It's just that format. You just don't get much time, do you? If you get off to a rough start and your opponent, Danny played well, and no, I did. I enjoyed watching your match and tough tournament, man. I was with you as far as like you. I would have liked to have made it a little further, but. And then little Chris, the players that went deep in the tournament were equipped with the Manscaped. Changed my mind. That's the greatest comment ever. So thank you for sharing.
All I'm saying is some of my sources have told me that Roberto Gomez has tried it out. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well,
My
Inside
source is
information.
he told me.
You know what? For once, I don't think we've spent a million hours. You guys said you've already beat the format to death, which is, I think, the only other thing to really talk about. I thought it was a lot of fun to play. It was a lot of fun to watch.
I have one thing I want to point out. How about the tournament for Payne McBride? Like, he only won one match, but that was against Michael Schneider, and that's Daniel Schneider's little brother. Daniel Schneider, I sat down with him in Vegas a couple of times, and he said that his little brother has more talent than just about anybody he's ever seen play the game, but he doesn't take it as seriously as he should. Michael Schneider, I believe, is about just shy of a 760 Fargo, and Payne McBride is just north of 560, I think. So he's given up 200 points on the Fargo, and he took Tyler Steyer to a shootout. Tyler beat him 4-0 or 4-1, and then he turned around and beat Tyler 4-1, and narrowly lost by one shot in the shootout, and then goes back and beats Michael Schneider, a 760 Fargo, and then loses his next match after that against another world beater or no, never mind. I don't know who it is. Brian Brecky. I don't know who that is, but
That's he lives in Minnesota. Brian's a friend of mine. Yeah.
Okay, so Payne can't be much older than 16, 17.
Yeah, well, is Tyler coaching him too? I thought maybe I heard somebody was saying that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, Tyler works with a lot of the kids, so I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he is. Tyler works with anybody he can that he believes will be a good ambassador for the game.
Well, and then I also want to shout out. It's funny. I see Devin Petit just joined us in the chat. Hey, Devin. I don't know.
1 second, boys.
I've seen you around, Devin. I don't think we've ever really gotten to know each other, but I'll tell you what, Devin had a great tournament, and so did Jeremy Seaman, by the way. But I'll tell you, I wanted to shout out to Devin because he had a tough road to get into the money. He had to beat a couple of Stone champions. Devin, I forget who they were. I just know that they were like two, like it might have been like that Snolky guy, and it might have been I don't know if it was Conrad. Who did Devin? If you want to put notes in, I can't remember who you beat, but I remember he beat back-to-back Stone champions. And the other thing that was really, really funny, and he won a match in shootout. I watched him win a match in shootout. That was I feel like it was really, really, really a tough one because I forget exactly the way it played out, but
so Devin lost his first match to Jeremy Seaman, and then he beat in order Hunter Lombardo, Muhammad I don't know because the rest of it's cut off, and then Oliver Solnaki, and that got him into the finals where he then beat
Niyaki, was it?
He then beat Warren Kiamko in the first round and lost to Roberto Gomez in the second match. So
yeah, and I'll tell you, I saw a shootout of his, and I forget, Devin, how it went down, but I want to say that like you might have had a chance to win it with the fourth of your rack spot shots, and then missed it, and then the other guy made his shot from the first diamond. I think you had to make like one to stay alive, and then one more to win it from the first diamond. You whacked them all in. Anyway, it was awesome. So it was fun to watch that match. I also want to mention I saw one. I don't remember the players, and even if I did, I don't think I'd want to tell you. But I saw one where a guy had a chance to win the shootout, and he was making if he makes this ball, it's the last shot of the shootout, he wins. He made the ball and scratched, and so it went to sudden death. And he ended up making like his first two, and then lost and ended up losing. And it was I'd never seen anyone make the winning ball and scratch and then end up losing. It was pretty painful. So tough. It is a lot of drama, man. And there's the other thing I'll say. The last thing I'll say about the format, I saw a lot of sets where one guy won the first set 4-0, and then the second set he's up 3-1 and running out, which looks like he's going to win 4-0, 4-1. It looks like an 8-1 blast out, right? And all of a sudden, the guy dogs it on the hill, and instead of going 4-1, it goes 3-2. And despite that huge performance, it's almost like it's a hill. You know what I mean? It's just so brutal. And I saw that not once, not twice. I saw that play out many, many, many matches. It was almost like that was just destined. So I think it's a great format for the players, for the spectators. There's no universal agreement, but it's been a lot. I love the format with the 10 ball with the triangle rack. I need to get used to these tables, but definitely that just encourages people to show up to more than one. So I like what's going on.
It's exciting. I don't think anybody can go and argue that. It's exciting to go and watch. And like I said, I know some of the top players don't necessarily love it, but I don't think it's perfect at all. But just from a viewership standpoint, there's a lot of things that I really enjoy about watching this rotation event after event that I don't think you get from a lot of these other events. So hats off to them, and we'll see what happens.
Well, and if you look at the top four finishers, you've got Mario He, Jeff DeLuna, Ruslan Chinakov, and Roberto Gomez. And if those aren't the four best players in this tournament, I mean, yeah, there's Niyaki Oe, Warren Kiamko, Tyler Steyer. I mean, there's a few, but it's not like
Oliver Solnaki. There's Victor.
Sure, but it's like it's not like I won the thing and Roberto Gomez didn't make the money. It's like no, it's pretty well. No. There's variance, but it's the top players win. And I've just seen it too much. And the other thing is, people were talking. I do want to say I saw this on AZ Billiards long thread. People were kind of diminishing the format, saying it favors the worst players. They went so far to say it made it like a flip of the coin. It favors the worst players.
That's a reach.
And I said, look,
That's a
man, the
reach.
top players are winning all the time. And I said, anybody that wants to go play Ruslan 2 sets to 4 and show me how easy it is to try to, like, you either, just to think about what a worse player has to do to beat the guy. You either have to beat Ruslan 2 sets in a row, okay? Not happening. Or you have to beat him 1 out of 2 sets and then outshoot him under pressure with an audience watching, potentially on a stream. And it's like, realistically, you're going to lose 2 sets, or you're going to get lucky and win one and then dog your brains out. It's so hard to win a set like that. It's people don't realize it's very, very tough.
I mean, the fact that it does give the no name. Yeah, I mean, the fact that it does give the no name or the lesser name a shot, I can appreciate. You know, I don't want to see these like early matches just be where it's so, and it on paper it can be heavily one-sided, you know, from a betting standpoint or however it is you want to look at it. But I mean, they're never out. They can lose 4-0 like Nate said, and then come back and win the next one 4-1 or 4-2 or whatever. So I think that's part of the beauty of the format.
Or he lost his the first match in his last 4 matches, and then won a shootout.
Devin's playing some great pool too.
Yeah,
on the Mosconi Cup radar.
Very good. Well, I'm good on this one. Are we ready to move on to up and coming?
I have one topic that I wouldn't mind discussing really quickly. Do you guys think that the players owe Predator more loyalty to this tour, especially the American players? The American players are not frequenting these. They're not showing up. Who are the American players that are showing up? Jeremy Seaman seems to be going, but they all seem to kind of be in his backyard, so it's a little bit different maybe.
Danny Olson, Tyler Steyer.
Yep, Chris Reinhold, those are the players that are showing up to this. But the rest of the players are not going to any of these. Do you think that the players owe a little bit more loyalty to the only company outside of Matchroom that's doing anything to grow the game?
I don't think so. I think that there's some stuff, you know, where pool players always shoot themselves in the foot, and we go back to like ESPN deals in the 90s and all this. But in the end, I kind of feel like if there is no like this is like that part like what happens with me and you. There is no me and you, like a little Pulp Fiction reference. Like pool players and pro pool, you know, nobody's making a good. There's no official tour. There's nobody making a good living except for maybe Exactly Shane, and the pro tournaments are making huge sacrifices. Predators making huge sacrifices to try to do what they do. I just feel like it's kind of like this jungle out there where everybody's kind of survival mode, doing what they need to do to be best for them. And I just don't feel like the amount of money that it costs to travel to tournaments and play. You can't blame players for not wanting to spend thousands of dollars to go travel and play so that they can play, you know, lose a race to 4 and get eliminated. If they don't feel that it's a good value for them, I don't blame them for not playing. And so, but Predator, see, when Predator sets up the format like this, they got to say, okay, I might lose a couple of participants from the highest levels that don't like the format, but maybe I gain a bunch of players from the semi-pro level that like the format and want to take a shot at it. So I in the end, here's what I think. If you're a tournament director, you've got to set it up to where you don't really – in poker, they have a theory called, you know, you got to be indifferent. You have to mix your bluffs and your value bets perfectly so that you are indifferent to what your opponent does. If you make poker players and hope that they call or hope that they fold, you've done it wrong. You want to play your cards so that they can do whatever they want to do. I don't care. I've mixed my strategy. You guys, I've played my cards. You can play yours. I think as a tournament director, you need to set it up to where what the individual pros decide to do doesn't matter, because if they don't play, you're going to get a bunch of semi-pros that do. And so I don't think the players owe anything to them. And I think Predator needs to set it up to where they don't depend on the top players' participation to be successful.
Mike?
I don't know. Demetrius makes a lot of good points. I never want to be that guy to tell anyone how to spend their money, number one. Right? Because however it is you want to go and spend your hard-earned money, hey, that's you. But I'll say this, man, from watching pool for a lot of years, and especially here in the States, you don't see too many $25,000 added tournaments, you know, and
especially not
I think
four
that,
of them in 3 months.
Yeah, and I think unless you want to go back to the days of making the bar table circuit and playing these $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 added events in hopes of having a monster Calcutta, then I I don't know. I don't know how you can't support it just because of the amount of added money that's going into every one of them. I know the format on their standpoint isn't necessarily the best, but man, if I'm Jeremy Jones or if I'm anyone who has any kind of say as far as the Mosconi Cup, to me this is like you're getting a great hand in that you're pretty much getting a Mosconi Cup boot camp in your backyard. You know,
That's
okay.
true with the short races.
You're
Yeah,
getting
that's a good point.
you're getting a Mosconi Cup boot camp in your backyard, and you don't go and take advantage of it. You know, so that to me is just mind blowing.
Did I just hear somebody in your background offer up the 7 out and breaks? Mike, is that what I'm hearing right there?
No.
Sounds like a lot of barking.
No, it's the dogs. A lot of the dogs, my bad.
Yeah, I thought I heard 7 out and breaks.
I'll call them.
No, so, I mean,
sorry, my wife was here.
Yeah, you're good. I favor more. I fall more on the Molina Mike side of things, and maybe it's because I'm a promoter of the game now. That if I see somebody out there that are having the best intentions to do what they can, I mean, I'm not saying the players should spend their money there and go play in it, but it'd be really nice if they did. It'd be really nice if they made it, something that would be a little bit more sustaining. But it's tough. At the end of the day, it's tough. So
I don't see how they can go and add more money next year with the turnout they've had, or I don't see how they can go and expect to grow it with the turnout they've had from the pro side from the American players, because I guarantee you there would have been a lot more fans there in Ohio and in Michigan, had Shane been on there, had Sky been on there, had the American Mosconi Cup team.
I mean, Billy couldn't have been more
been on there.
Billy couldn't have been more than 2 or 3 hours away from there where he lives. There's no reason he can't go there and support it. So I don't know. All right. Well, I don't know. Do you want? Let's move on to the upcoming event.
Yeah. Let's talk about it. And I think the one that we want to hit, I think our big action match. This is tough. I was talking to Nate about this the other night. It's a tough one, man. Scott Frost v. Chip Compton. Race to 40, is that right? I've asked you this like 18 times. Race to 40.
40 over 4 days. Starting
4-day race to 40. Chip Compton, Scott Frost. Who do you like, Mike?
I don't know, man. I think this match has been trying to happen for quite a long time. There's been a lot of barking going on each side. They've been trying to put it together, so it's something that I'm really excited for.
Background.
Yeah, no kidding. I got a room full of dogs in the living room. Anyway, no, I'm glad they were finally able to go and get it together. There's a lot of money being bet. I think it's somewhere around 100,000 between them, and there's a lot more on the side, and bets are still going on right now. Both sides. I think Scott's got a huge advantage playing at home, obviously, and his record at home is pretty great. But yeah, I don't know, man. This one's tough to call. I know we talked about April being the grinder, but for my money, I don't see anyone grinding hard for every ball like I do Chip Compton when it comes to the cash. He's just one of those guys that just fights no matter where the game is at. I don't care if he's buried 7, -2. He's still in it because you can come back in 30 minutes and it's going to be, 7-4. That's just the kind of player that he is. And for the money, it's hard to go and bet against him. Last we seen Scott really go and play, I think he lost to Fedor in Aiken, but before that he's had a pretty good run this year of playing like pretty consistently. He played Tony at the beginning of the year. He goes deep in the Buffalo event with one of the best one pocket matches I've ever seen against Justin Hall. And I think Scott's confident, but I don't know, man. We'll see. And this is for a lot of like what the talk's been about the top 5 players of one pocket, and me and Joey, and we're gonna come out with it soon. It's been tough because of this gauntlet of pool, but finally coming out with our one pocket rankings video that's gonna be out pretty soon. But they're kind of fighting for that 5th spot, and they both feel disrespected not being there. Both of them do, because I've talked to both of them. Chip's a little bit more like passive in the sense that he's, he doesn't want to have the light on him, where Scott's kind of like, no, it should be on me. I should be top 3. I should be number 1. I should be number everything. And this is gonna kind of sorry about the dog. This is gonna kind of settle those debates, So I'm pumped.
Yeah. Nate, what do you think?
Um, you know, I always come back to this thing that I heard when I was a kid. Never, never, never disrespect a legend, even if they're past their prime. And I'm not saying Scott is past his prime, but you never disrespect somebody enough. You never disrespect a legend who knows how to get it done in the biggest moments, who's been there, done that. Get them fired up and give them a reason to bring out what they know they can do. And I feel like that's a lot of what's happening right now with Scott Frost. And I just feel like he's been practicing like crazy. He's been going deep in some one pocket tournaments, and I just feel like he's ready to come out and just open this thing up. Now, with that being said, this is the exact worst opponent that he could possibly play against, because Chip doesn't give a crap he doesn't care who you are. He doesn't care what you've done. He's going to make you work harder than you've ever worked for anything in your entire life. Every single game, every single shot. And he has that ability. We saw him do it to Gomez. He grinded Roberto Gomez into the dirt. And no one in the world is going to argue that Chip Compton plays his.
He broke his spirits.
No one's going to argue that he plays better than. I don't know that you can say he plays better one pocket than Roberto Gomez, potentially. But what he is good at doing is grinding you into the absolute dirt and making sure that you do not even have the close to the heart to be able to beat him. And I think that's what it's going to take, a lot of players to beat him. And I think that we saw with him playing Tony that it took to the third opportunity for Tony to be like, all right, I'm done with this. Like, that's it. You're not having your little games anymore. I'll play the way you want to play, and let's get it done.
He had to overhaul his entire game to go and beat
Yes.
Chip Compton. Let's just call it what it is. I ain't seen Tony play like that beforehand. I ain't seen Tony play like that since then.
And he probably
that's what Chip Compton does to you.
Yes, and you can either buy in and play by his style and better hope that you have the heart that you never knew you had, or you might as well just chalk it up, ship the cash, and head out of town, because you're not going to win. Now, so basically we're coming up with two different players, one who feels ultra disrespected and like, did you guys really forget about me? The guy who brought one pocket onto, the U.S. stage in his mind,
They forgot about Dre. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, like, you guys forgot about me. I'm not that old. I can still play this game at a top level. Don't take me off your radar. And then you have another guy who doesn't give a crap about you, what you've done, where you've been, or who you are. I'm just going to make you grind harder than you've ever grinded for your entire life on every single shot. Who's going to come out ahead there? It's tough. I mean, it's a very interesting matchup. I think Scott gets there just because I think that he's ready to prove to people that you can't write him off. Not when he has proper preparation time and the heart to play. So I think Scott gets there, but
they've been fishing. I mean,
what is their
Scott posting pictures of fish?
What is their track record? They've played before. I remember Chip beat him was it a 7 ahead last time they played 7 ahead? What is their track? Who knows their whole track record?
He beat him 7 ahead in 9 games. Is that right?
Yeah, I think I bet Chip on that one, but that was a while ago.
Danny Smith. Oh yeah, Danny Smith, right? Yeah. I honestly don't know.
I thought that was the Danny.
I think Chip beat Scott last time they played.
Have. Yeah,
but it's always been tough. It's always been close. And so for me, okay, I kind of like, it's a really hard one to call. I love the style that Chip plays. Of all the one pocket players I've seen, I love the way Chip plays. His game management, he has the right mix of aggression and he's consistent. His mindset, he always keeps his mind right. He keeps his decision making right. His execution's right, and his game management, everything. He just doesn't leak. And so when I'm betting on a guy, there's nothing more frustrating than betting on a guy who gets up and does something stupid every rack and sells out, or when your guy gets to the table and he has a shot and you're like, now he's supposed to run some balls, and he just gets up and like finds a way to give it back to the opponent, run to and hook himself and do something stupid and give it back. Chip doesn't do Chip has less leak than any player I've ever seen. He's just super steady, rounded, and balanced and effective. And I love his game maybe more than anyone in the world. I'm not saying he's the best in the world. I'm saying I love the way he plays. So it's hard to bet against him. But I tell you, Scott, home court, great player. He's very, very motivated right now. I think I think Scott's been in the ring a lot lately and playing a lot. And I think he's really hungry. And I also think in a race to 40 that he'll have time to make adjustments. So even if they come out of the gate and what he's doing isn't working, I think he's got time to kind of find a way to win. And I think he's got the heart and determination to find a way to win. I don't like betting on anyone but Chip, but I think if I have to pick a winner, I feel like a sucker, but I'm gonna call Scott Frost. I'm gonna call Scott Frost, and I think that
I've lost a lot of money betting against Chip Compton. I've lost a lot of money betting against Chip.
I'll tell you what,
we all have
over and over again. I've lost a lot of money.
If I bet on Scott,
I have too.
If I bet on Scott and Chip wins, I'll feel like a sucker. If I bet on Chip and Scott wins, I'll feel like I pay one off. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I'm getting it in good with Chip. I feel like I'm a sucker if I bet on Scott and Chip wins. I just feel like a sucker because Chip. It's so hard to bet against Chip. But so I'll call. I don't really know. I think Nate. Me and you are going to bet something on this match just for a sweat. But honestly, man, I don't really care who we pick in this match. I think it's super close.
Yeah, I guess if we're giving predictions, I'm going to give it to Scott. 40-37, and that is like
a lot of money like Scott right now. There's a lot of people that like Scott on the betting side of it. Obviously, Chip's side has come up with 50 of their own that go and says that they got the best of it, and I think that's why it's going to make for an intriguing matchup is because they both really believe, and I think it is real close. I think it's something like 6-5 on the money. Right now, just betting sides. But
who's the favorite? On
Scott.
paper. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Scott's the favorite right now.
So, okay, let me ask you one question, Mike. Who's got the better up table game? What do you think?
I like Chip. Chip just because of the way that he grinds the balls, and I've seen a lot more Chip lately. And I know I said earlier that we've seen a lot of Scott over the last year, but Tony was at the beginning of the year. Buffalo's was however many months ago it was, like back in May or whatever. So Aiken, I don't really put a lot of stock into like 4.5-inch table one pocket myself. Sky won the hot seat. Fedor beats Scott. Do I think Fedor's a better one pocket player than Scott Frost? No, I don't. But it's a tournament. And I know it's recent where Chip wasn't even there. I do like Chip's just ability to go and just, like you said, not go and sell anything out. Like with Tony could be up something like 6-1, and he's gonna take a flyer that he just don't need to go and take, and all of a sudden it's 6-6 because you took a bonehead shot. But that's part of like the excitement that you get from Tony, right? Whereas Chip don't do it. He's not going to put himself in tough positions.
Yeah, Nate, I want to switch horses, man. I want to take, if we could get 6-5, I'd rather bet Chip. and here's what I think. I think that Chip, if it goes like 34-34, I have seen so many times where it comes down to the wire and Chip closes out so well. I think that as I run this out in my head again and again and again, I'm not meaning any disrespect for Scott. I just don't think I don't know that the world has really seen how good Chip plays this game yet. And if we have, I think that he's the best player in the world that's not an elite striker. And I actually think it would be a lot of fun for a dream match. I think it'd be a lot of fun if he played filler.
Look, they need to have microphones on them, number one, because both of them are liable to go and talk a lot of smack, And there may be a line on whether or not there's a fight throughout the match because they both can kind of get a little heated sometimes, But no, listen. It's gonna be fantastic. It really, really is. And if you love one pocket, this is an exciting matchup to go and get because they both genuinely think that they are worlds ahead of the other one. Like I remember whenever I'd message Scott to go and ask him his top 5. And he messages me with this big long list, and he with facts, not with I think I can do this. I think I can do that. He's giving me like top second or top first or championship finishes, like a list of them, And I'm like, Scott, make a video, hit record. I want you to tell me this story, not in Messenger, but with the camera on because the guy is just made for TV, But he's got the game to back it up. And Chip has been, we've seen a lot of Chip lately playing against Tony, who you can go and say is the best one pocket player here in America. I know I'm not going to argue it. Would you?
Well, I have a
And
question. Who have we seen Chip lose to? Have you seen Chip lose? I can't even remember if Chip's ever lost a
Tony.
match. Tony.
Even Tony, yeah, just lately, yeah, he lost to Tony.
Yeah.
But I mean, in Louisiana, and this is why like home court advantage means so much, right, boys? I mean, Tony playing in Dallas and Tony playing at Buffalo was a night and day difference. Now, like I said, I know Tony overhauled his style of play that last time, but this is part of like why Chip has fans as well, because he's got a lot of gamble. He's gonna go and travel to you. He's not gonna knit up and say, "Oh, I beat you twice, get 9-8. I'm not gonna play you even." He's going to go and play Tony even at Buffalo's. He's going to go and give Scott what he wants and go play them in Arizona just to make the game happen. That's the kind of player that Chip Compton is, and he thinks he can get there. I think he can get there. It's going to be great.
It'll be a fun one.
Yeah.
Oh, Nate, your mic's off.
Your mic's off. Negative.
I think Nate's just saying
we're giving him the boot anyway. Yeah. We're giving Nate the boot anyway. It's all good.
Yeah, I'll do it. Nate, I want you to move your mouth and I'll speak for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Chip Compton is just a better human being than me. Sorry. I can't. I'm not that creative.
No,
okay.
OmegaBilliards.com. Support Mike and them. They're doing great things. They kind of had some streaming issues like late and, had to get someone to come in and fill in. But Omega Billiards is where you can go and buy the pay-per-view. I know that if you're in the Phoenix area, there's still some VIP seating available, and you can go and get with Phil for that. Hell, I might still fly out there. You never know. It's going to be that good of a matchup, and you're not going to want to miss it. 4 days of some fantastic one pocket. So I'm pumped.
Very good. Well, I can't hear Nate, and I think that I think we're about set. I mean, Mike, was there anything else that you wanted to cover?
Yeah.
You mentioned.
No, that's pretty much about it. The American 14.1 is going on right now. Go check that out. That's free online as well. Hunter and Louis DeMarco are playing a big set in Indiana of some one pocket right now, but that's not available online to go and watch. The International Open's coming up, so I'm pumped and looking forward for that. And we're gonna have a new host for the show next week. So that's really the best news that we've had in months.
Yeah.
So.
Well, geez, Nate, come on, man. We've got children. We've got
what is
children.
going on with your tech stuff, buddy?
Yeah. I'm gonna have to turn. Hang on, watch this. I think I have the ability. Let's see. Ha! Look at that. All right. Well, listen. I think I'm gonna bail. So that was a lot of fun. Thanks for participating. And same time next week. I'll probably same time, same place. The internet. Good.
Yeah. We'll see you guys.
All right. See you next time, guys.